Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you again after a couple of months hiatus on our town halls, but I think we're going to be back in a regular meeting time now that the legislative session is over. We're excited about today. There's a lot to cover. There's been a lot that's happening since we last spoke with each other. And let me go over essentially what we want to cover today. And again, really encourage you to participate, ask questions, and engage us on our chat board, and so that we can make this a little bit more kind of a dialogue, if at all possible. I'm really excited. We're going to introduce our guests today, and in just a minute, Senator Darren Owens, Representative Carl Albrecht, and Representative Steve Lund will talk about some of the highlights of the legislative session, some of the bills that they ran, and some of their takeaways. We'll talk about some of the new higher ed bills, some of the new funding that it was available, and particularly the outcomes for Snow College as it relates to our funding requests. We'll also then turn the time over to Carson Howell to talk a little bit about our tuition strategy. As you know, we had a truth and tuition hearing a week or so ago, and we want to sort of update the campus on our strategy, which we'll take then to the State Board of Education this next Friday. We'll give you some commencement plans. We'll provide some other updates relative to COVID and enrollment and academic affairs, and then we'll close out right around the hour at the about 1:30 or so. It is. I have to say, I want to tell you how much we appreciate and personally applaud the work of our legislators in the state, and particularly the legislative delegation that represents this part of the world and Snow College, both in Sevier and Sanpete County. Senator Darren Owens, I'm going to have Senator Owens slide over close to me, and he is here in studio. There he is, right there. Look at that. He's wearing his Badger tie. Senator Owens, it's really good to have you. But also on with us is Representative Carl Albrecht, as well as Representative Steve Lund. Welcome, gentlemen. We just have to let you know how appreciated you are, the work that you've done. We could not have done as well this legislative session without you. And I often tell people that I'm a commissioner for the Northwest Commission on Higher Education, which accredits institutions in the Northwest. And as we look at these applications for reaccreditation, some of these states are really, really suffering. Alaska and Colorado and these other places. And I'm so happy we're in the state of Utah. So happy that we have legislators that value higher education and education in general, and that are fiscally responsible and manage the state so well. So we are so lucky to have you here. And so listen, I'd like to have maybe each of you take a minute, talk a little bit about your takeaways from the legislative session. Let's start with our good Senator Darren Owens, and then we'll go to Representative Albrecht, who is on the line with us. He's not on camera, but he will be on the line, and I think that you'll be able to hear him through the system here. And then we'll have Representative Steve Lund take us home on his thoughts. So, Senator, thanks for all you've done. We couldn't have done it without you. I got to say, as a freshman senator, you came out a terrific champion for us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, President. I was just walking across the grounds here, and so nice to be home and back in Ephraim. This was a special place. I want to just give a little shout out to all of you here at Snow College and the work that you do, the legacy that you continue to build on. I have the honor to work with Representative Lund, who was our freshman representative this year, and he did a great job. He mixed right in, and leadership, appreciated his knowledge, especially in energy and natural resources, and his help there. And then Representative Albrecht, I have him on my phone here. He's up north, so he's just called in. And I've never enjoyed having the ability to mute him like I could right there. I think I just did. So these are good people. Snow College is easy to advocate for because of who you are and being the #1 in the country. We make sure that we tout that as much as we can. So we balanced the budget. The first thing we went to do, I think our job is to balance our budget as a state. $23.5 billion budget that Utah generated. And you all know the struggles that we had going into this past year. You can't say enough about the work that's been done at the college and throughout the state. I was really impressed with higher ed and hey, Albrecht, you're making too much noise. And I love this. And the challenges, but you rose to the occasion, and I think any support we could bring to Snow College is warranted. You want to talk about our bills now?
Well, before we get there, I'd be interested in your thoughts. The state of Utah has ranked #1, or depending on the poll, 2 in the country in terms of its economic position. Why do you think that is the case? Because some states have just are buried since COVID. All of these, it's just the economy shut down, income tax, sales tax were in the toilet for these other states. Yet, even during COVID, we actually had growth. So talk a little bit about that. What is it about Utah that we can feel, why are we managed so well, and what have we done differently?
It's our people. That's what makes this state function so well. And then our founding fathers and the Constitution we have in this state that, especially fiscally, says we're gonna balance our books every year. That just keeps us from going in the hole. So when this pandemic hit, we had almost $1 billion out of rainy day funds, and then non-working rainy day funds, which would be money that's allocated to buildings that haven't started to build. We pulled all the resources back and started working from there under 7 special sessions last year. So there went the notion that we were a part-time legislature, but it was a busy
Right.
year, and we just kept working the budget, and I think found the balance between supporting life, every life matters, but also livelihood, because we had to have the economy back up as quick as we could and as safe as we could. And I just think Utah found the Utah way, and the people responded the way Utah citizens do. And as we left going into the pandemic, we were #1 in the country. We've emerged out of that with growth. Mm-hmm. We also gave $100 million in tax relief on top of that. Amazing. And a boost to education. And no other state was able to do this. Almost $500 million in K-12 education. On top of that, a 3% package for salaries and benefits for higher ed. And then, individual schools had different priorities that we were able to fund. And who would have thought? It was surreal. We were able to stay in session all 45 days, which Idaho just had to abandon their session. They're waiting now 2 weeks to reconvene. But we tested 2 or 3 times a week, and we had a bubble in chambers, and we just worked at it. And but the credit goes to the people and doing it the Utah way. And yeah, we're back in #1 again. People are flocking here. Growth is our biggest challenge, but our economy doesn't show any signs of weakening or slowing down. And if it does, we have pretty good stability.
We'll come back to your bills in a second, and Representative Albrecht, and I hope you can hear us okay, and I'd love to have sort of Representative Lund also comment on this. As it relates to rural Utah, there are no stronger advocates for rural Utah than these three elected officials. Representative Albrecht has really championed these things. How did you feel Representative Albrecht about the rural agenda this year and maybe some of your bills in particular.
Well, thank you, President. It's good to be with you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It looks like, Steve, can you, looking at you, can you hear Representative Albrecht on your mic? Okay, good. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. It's good to be here with Senator Owens and Representative Lund. You know, to answer your question, the Speaker had me call in all the rural legislators to his office with their agenda items early on in the session, which speaks volumes about our relationship with leadership. This is the second year they've done that, and Senator Owens was in on one of those meetings last year. But to have leadership on your side is a big deal, and we've established those relationships both in the Senate and in the House and with the Executive Appropriations Committee. A couple of bills that I'd like to mention that generally affect us all. You know, we fully funded Medicaid growth. We passed a bill to balance the emergency powers between the legislature and the executive branch. Worked with the governor and come up with a bill that he was supportive of and he'll be signing. You know, we caught a lot of flack during COVID that maybe the executive branch was overreaching their powers. And, you know, depending on what your position was of how Utah reacted to COVID and masks and social distancing and so forth, you know, there was a lot of concern there, but we come up with a bill, I think, that more fairly takes some of the executive powers back to the legislative branch where they belong, but also allows the governor's office to take care of emergencies on a short-term basis. We also passed a bill that will terminate, it's called the Endgame Bill, terminate masks and some of our COVID restrictions on April 10th, which I thought was a good bill. Personally, as I talked to you in my office, President, the big bill that Senator Owens and I ran together, I ran it in the House and then he picked it up in the Senate, was HB 356, which is a rural economic development tax increment financing bill. Now, it's called Red TIF. The urban areas, the Wasatch Front, have had Ed TIF for many years, where they provided incentives to businesses that located there. Yesterday, all of us were in Cedar City at the governor's rural office as he signed a lot of the rural bills. And I think this bill will have a chance of having more impact on rural Utah than any bill that we've passed for rural Utah, save it be Rural Online Initiative. What this bill will do is if a company out of state, Wasatch Front, or an existing company in rural Utah wants to invest to upgrade their businesses or bring a business to Utah or to rural Utah, if they invest $250,000 in a county class of 4th, 5th, or 6th class, which is rural Utah, they can get a 50% tax credit, which is a game changer for anybody that wants to invest in rural Utah. We've been working on this for a couple of years, and finally the pieces were all put together, and it passed committees unanimously in the House and the Senate. I think I only had one dissenting vote in the House, and I think Senator Owens may have had one, but it might have passed unanimously. So it had broad support, it had leadership support, and there was a fiscal note to it, which Executive Appropriations supported as well. So that's the biggie, I think, for rural Utah. I'll quit and let Representative Lund talk right now, but you couple that bill with the Rural Online Initiative, and Darren run a bill, or Senator Owens ran a bill to terminate the sunset on that, and I carried it in the House because that program has been so successful in rural Utah. So between those two, I think we're staged pretty well to do some good things in rural Utah. Thank you, President.
Well, thank you, Representative Albrecht. You know, and it can't be understated, the relationship, that the respect that you guys have garnered with legislative leadership, and maybe Senator Lund, you can educate maybe our audience a little bit before you talk about some of your bills. Why is it, you know, when it comes to actual decisions being made, right, when it comes to Executive Appropriations Committee and leadership, why is it important that we have good relationships with leadership?
Or is he on mute? I think you're on mute, Representative.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay,
There we go.
great. Thank you, President. I appreciate that question. Before I address that question, I want to just make a couple observations. Leadership respects the rural legislators because of the path that has been plowed by Representative Albrecht and Senator Owens on this. And we can even go back to other rural legislators, but there is a great deal of respect for these men, and it was a great opportunity to work with them. Representative Albrecht was my mentor, and I'll forever be grateful for his example and guiding me. I was able to sit on one of his committees. Senator Owens was continually there to make sure that I didn't stub my toe too badly. Rural Utah is a unique place when you speak with urban legislators, and one urban legislator made the statement to some rural legislators, and he said, "Your life is so much different than mine." And we don't see that quite often. In rural Utah, we think, well, the urban folks come down and they recreate here, and they enjoy the outdoors here, and then they go back. And sometimes that's their only exposure to rural Utah. But when you can help them understand and tie up some of the loose ends, that the reason they have electricity is because of rural Utah. The reason they have goods and services quite often are because of rural Utah. And the reason rural Utah has them is because we have access to the urban areas. I think that we can make the connections and connect the dots with our urban counterparts, and helping them understand the significance of rural Utah. And these legislators do that. Representative Albrecht is very well respected in the House, and Senator Owens left a large footprint for me to try to fill as he went to the Senate, and I appreciate their help. Now, President, could you repeat that question one more time? I just want to make sure that we're all still on the same page, and that our listeners still remember that question.
Yeah. I think you basically addressed it. That why is it important to have good relationships with leadership? Because really, when it comes down to making certain decisions about budget, it really comes down to a very kind of select Executive Appropriations Committee and others. And so it puts a lot of burden on legislators who aren't part of this Executive Appropriations Committee to make a case, right? To lobby, because even legislators are lobbying legislators for their issues. So you have to be very effective at that advocacy role. So tell us a little bit how some of the decisions are made when it comes down to how we spend surplus dollars. How does that process work?
I'll be glad to. We have some good good examples of that. These relationships, once these urban legislators and once leadership really understand where we're coming from and the need for trivial, what they may see as trivial bills or trivial appropriations, once they see the need for them and can make those connections, then they're all on board. And Red TIF is a perfect example of that. The rural incremental tax financing is a perfect example of that. They see the need for that because, quite frankly, manufacturing and some of these opportunities we have to not only bring companies here but also expand our companies affect them directly and indirectly. Indirectly because when we do the manufacturing down here, we have many more open spaces than they do, and we're able to build the type of plants that are necessary to provide them the goods and services they need. There is not a place in Salt Lake County that you could put another power plant or another solar panel field or even wind generation. You could not put the renewables up there. But once they understand that rural Utah is a place where a lot of this energy supplement and services can be provided for them, then they understand why we need a red TIF of this type. Once they understand where their milk comes from, they understand why it's important for us to make sure that we give the farmers and the ranchers all of the latitude they need to responsibly run their operations. And when they realize that this is where their food comes, then they're in full support of it. We need to make the case to them that it's important to have small colleges. It's important to have Snow College at the forefront of a lot of the education that our students have. There are many rural students that go on to be great leaders in urban areas. We are talking to some of the professors from the University of Utah in their dentistry college up there, and they are very familiar with Snow College and very familiar with the type of students that Snow College produces. And once they can see those connections, then they're very supportive of making sure that the funding is available for Snow College. And so it's all a matter of the relationship and helping them connect the dots. If I could, I wanted to just mention one of the bills, and then I'll let Senator Owens and Representative Albrecht finish up their thoughts. But Sanpete County, I was a county commissioner prior to being a representative, and Sanpete County has been a fourth-class county for quite a while, and we're one of the larger in population rural counties. We were right on the threshold of going to a Class 3 county. Had we gone to a Class 3 county, it completely changes the administration within a county itself, and it increases the expenses, which we really weren't able to do. And Senator Owens made it clear to leadership that we only have 2 stoplights in Sanpete County. It doesn't make sense for us to be a third-class county. When that bill was finally finished, we were in jeopardy of becoming a third-class county, and yet Representative Albrecht and Senator Owens and I was able to be on the tail end of it. We're able to make the case that we needed to increase the boundaries or the thresholds of these county classifications. So for the next 10 years, maybe even 20 years, Sanpete County is going to be a Class 4 county, and we're going to be able to enjoy the benefits of Red TIF. We're going to enjoy the benefits of the Rural Online Initiative, and be a leader in rural education and in rural job opportunities because of some of these closely held bills that we were able to get passed. That was a big one to make sure that we protect our county classification.
Thanks, Representative. We really appreciate the update on those initiatives. Senator Owens, why don't you take us home on the session, maybe some bills that you are interested in discussing, and then any final thoughts?
Sure. And just to finish up on what these two gentlemen were saying is we've kind of hit a numbers issue that rural Utah is in a favorable position because of the growth on the Wasatch Front. They've almost outgrown themselves, and their way of life, the value of life up there is going downhill with the air pollution and the traffic and congestion. So we sit at a pivotal point to be a relief lever for them, to have space here and send industry here. And they are a relief lever for us. They provide a lot of things that tax base and an economic machine that we can't produce. So if we work together, it's magic. We only have 30% of our land, even maybe a little less than that we control that's not under federal control. So it's really kudos to our Constitution and our forefathers and everybody in Utah who makes this such a special place. People are going to keep coming. Just be ready for that. Snow College is going to grow. The state as a whole, higher ed grew up just only 0.3%. I think 350 students. And I don't know how Snow College drew in 8% of your growth.
8%. Yeah.
So you had a lion's share of that growth, and I see why. And I saw the strategies early on as you went to places where people wanted to come and be face to face. One of the bills that we did pass this year was to put all students K-12 in face to face. There was a school district that was hesitating there, and the legislature came in and passed a bill and put a little pressure on because of parents who were demanding their children gain an education. And that's something for the staff of Snow College to be ready for. There's going to be a gap here for a number of years that we're going to have to overcome, a gap of learning that's been missed in this past year. So you'll do what you've always done and prepare our students. I ran 20-something bills, only 7 or 8 were mine in the Senate, but then I sponsored some in the House, some that I thought were really effective game changers. Representative Albrecht and the red tip. I ran Utah Main Street program bill to help grant programs to reestablish our main streets. Our hometown little mom and pop shops that need to be regenerated for our population, our way of life, and Representative Lund carried that in the House, and we were able to sign that with the governor yesterday. A few pretty impactful. I ran the 294 House bill. That was the one that Representative Albrecht mentioned to remove some of the emergency powers, terminate mask wearing on April 10th, and how that looks at the college level and universities. Will still some work to be done on that with administration, what will happen there, but we wanted to let the state know the biggest request I had from my constituents through the past year was to balance the power and help us know how we can work our way out of this pandemic, and we're doing it. And so 294 was part of that, and it puts some thresholds in place that safely walks us out of the pandemic. I believe that because of those steps, that's one of the answers to your previous question is, why are we doing so well economically? People are drawn here, our way of life and the good people that are here. So 195 was the balance of powers bill. I did pass restructured the old Regent Scholarship. We changed that to the Opportunity Scholarship. So for you professors know that now students who want to earn that, it's a lot more simple, streamlined. They need a 3.3 GPA. They need to earn college credit in 3 categories: math, English, and science from a college level course. And that's through concurrent enrollment, AP or IB. And if a student does that, it doesn't require an ACT score anymore. That's been shown that it's not really an indicator of success. That opens students up for the Opportunity Scholarship. And we funded all of those. I think we're in good shape going forward. We're up about 3.2 million residents now. That's growing. We're up 13%. We could talk all day.
Well, we'd like to actually, Carson, I don't know if you can put up the slide in terms of the legislative outcomes for Snow College so that the audience can see. While Carson is doing that, I think the biggest news here was the fact that the legislature passed a 3% compensation increase for higher education and Snow College employees. That is terrific, and I think we're all very, very grateful for that, and especially I know a year ago we weren't in a position as a state to do this, and for the legislatures to not forget about that for state employees, I think is really a great thing. That also they also increased about 4.5%. The insurance increases that that becomes more and more of an important issue for all of us as insurance increases. So the state was very cognizant of that. We'll open up the questions in a second in terms of how we're planning on doing the 3%. And we won't keep the legislators much longer, other than to let them know and to thank them for the other kind of funding requests that we had. So there were actually 3 primary funding requests that we had. One was performance-based funding, and that was fully funded at $611,000 of ongoing money. And we could talk about where that money will go. The second piece really was a technical education initiative, which was fully funded at $1.3 million. And again, that was, a very strong advocacy by our legislators to get that. And the third one was actually what we call an RFA, which stands for
Request for Appropriation.
Request for Appropriation, which essentially had to be in a legislator to request this money, which was for our concurrent enrollment. You know that we subsidize concurrent enrollment to the tune of $719,000 a year. Because our concurrent enrollment has been so successful, we've grown, we're serving more students, but we've outstripped what the state has funded us for. Senator Owens went to bat for us, and while we didn't get the full 719, we did get 500,000 of ongoing money, and we'll come back next year to pick up that 200. But any thoughts about that? Because that was really important for us to get, so that we can make that hole, in a sense, whole. Right?
Or closer
to fill that hole in.
And that was we're competitive, President, and that was a little bit frustrated about that, not getting the 719. I still don't understand. I guess maybe they thought they would bless rural Utah enough, but we went to bat for the 719, and we're not done. There's another round of COVID stimulus money, and we're already putting these things in their ear. But yeah, we were able to get 500,000, and that puts Snow College a lot closer to being whole. This is a state program that the college was asked to carry, and have done such a great job. And it shouldn't be the college's responsibility to take it out of your general funds to fund a state program. So we're going to find a formula. We'll find a fix. We'll be back to it, and we brought some attention to it. So I feel pretty good about it.
We also we're very fortunate to get some one-time funding this year. We got about $3.5 million of capital improvement dollars, which really is allowing us to get down into this very long list that we have. Now, what capital improvement dollars are for the audience really is things like chillers, HVAC units, ceiling tiles, parking lot refurbishing. And, that list continues to grow. And with $3.5 million, we're able to get into that list quite a bit. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about a bill you were running on behalf of rural Utah as it relates to emergency management systems, so EMS. So that whole spectrum, right, of EMTs, paramedics, fire, police, search and rescue. What was your thinking about that? And tell us how successful you were.
we're in a crisis in rural Utah because of, we've mentioned earlier, the visitors that come here with our emergency medical system, and we just don't have the volunteers anymore that are able to, that are certified. So we were working on an initiative to put legs underneath the program, Stronger for Snow College, to maybe produce EMT certification and paramedic training. And right now, I think we do some of that with a connection with a college in Nevada, but we have efforts going forward and are seeking funding for that, for the college. But as a whole, Representative Albrecht and I have worked on this, and Representative Lund is new to it, that we've been working with county commissioners trying to get some support because our counties are being overrun. You take Wayne County, there's 2,500 residents there, and they have over 1 million visitors every year, but yet they're expected to take care of every emergency call or everybody who gets lost, which happens out in rural Utah, and they have to provide that support. And it was really getting to the point that sometimes the tow truck would arrive at an accident scene before the ambulance, and because we're just getting stretched out. And then you saw the really bad accident that took place with the Chinese visiting group bus accident there at Ruby's Inn, and that took all resources that rural Utah had to offer, clear to Salina and Gunnison were calling out clear to go down past Panguitch. So we're in a little bit of a crisis there. We've secured funding for it. One thing that we were able to get was a grant fund, and this was a healthy gift from the legislature, was $6 million. And I'm on a commission to spend that money, and it's kind of fun. And we're going to spread that out over nonprofit EMT agencies throughout the state, 44 of them. And some of those dollars are going to end up right here at Snow College with your work with your law enforcement and the EMT program. So.
Well, thank you. We really, I think, ought to be the kind of educator first choice in the 6 counties, and with your help, and those financial support, I think we can do that. So, gentlemen, we thank you so much for your work on behalf of the people of our six counties, and behalf of higher education. We feel that higher education is an important variable in the well-being and economic lifeblood of our part of the state. And I think you recognize that too. So thanks for your support. We appreciate it, and we wish you all the very best in the interim. And we look forward to working with you closely next year, by the way, because we need to get a building. Family Studies building is way past its time, and so we're going to work really hard to get that building replaced. So
I think we can get some of those things done. President, thanks for having us. And I know I speak on behalf of our representatives, but we are well served with your leadership and your team. Up on the Hill, everybody knows President, and your influence there is key. That last week when you came up, and if we would have been a day, 48 hours, 24 hours later, some of the funding that would have come to this campus would have just been too late. So keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We appreciate that. Again, thanks everybody. Thanks Representative Albrecht, Representative Lund. We sure appreciate you. Let's go ahead and put that slide back up, Carson. And do you want to talk a little bit more detail on this the summary of the legislature, and then we'll take some questions if anybody has questions relative to the new money, and where it might be going. We're still kind of in conversation about some of it, but we're really close. So Carson, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, thanks, President. So overall, it was a really good year for Snow College. You can see there on the bottom, the total line, a little over $7 million. That's phenomenal. There were some small items, mandated costs. That's things like motor pool and some of those kind of things that the state just bills us a rate for, and those rates were increasing, and so they give us money to offset that. You mentioned the 500,000 on concurrent enrollment. That's a huge win for us. We've talked a little bit about the budget deficit, that budget hole, and concurrent enrollment is a big player in that. So to get $500,000, it was disappointing that we didn't get 700,000, but I'm not going to complain about $500,000. So we were really excited to get that one. That'll go a long ways. The performance funding is kind of the funding that comes from the commissioner's office for us doing a good job, and then we're able to use those funds however we see the best need across the campus. So that's where things like hiring new faculty members for bottleneck courses, or hiring new staff, maybe some improvements that needed that have been on the list for a long time. That's where those are funded from. President, you mentioned the 3% salary and benefits and health insurance increase there. That's a big win for us. Last year we got 2.5%. That 2.5% was then pulled back, and so for the state to come back and say we're going to give you a 3%, that's been a big win for us. You mentioned the rural EMS. That's the one that Senator Owens pushed through and really fought for. We've requested about 900,000. We'll see what happens. Those funds are going to be distributed, but we've got a good case. Some of that is one-time equipment type of things. Other portions of that 900,000 are to help establish or help bolster the EMT program, paramedic, those kind of things. Then the technical education. President, you've talked a lot about how this is a priority, and it's shown here that message got through to the state, and it's a priority for them as well. And so that has equipment in it. It's got program enhancements, and then there's also a piece of that which will be coming. It's phasing in over time, so we'll expect some more money coming in for that technical education. But when the merge happened with higher education, the degree granting institutions and the technical colleges, there's a disparity there in how those are funded with the tuition. And so the technical schools are about 90% funded from the state. The higher ed Snow College is about 75%. So there was a piece of funding that came to help bridge that gap between how the technical schools are funded and how the degree granting schools are funded, and also in order for us to lower the tuition amount for those technical education programs. So we got a little over 500,000 there. We expect that to continue for the next couple of years as we transition to that new way of technical education. And then there was about $3 million in capital improvements, and that's what you talked about with the roof projects and chillers and all those kind of things. So overall, it was a fantastic year for Snow College. I'm pretty pleased.
We're very lucky, I think, and this isn't really also addressing the new stimulus dollars coming from the federal government. Carson, you want to talk about that? That is actually on a formula, and it's looking like Snow College this next round is slotted for $9.7 million. And half of that, the 4.5 and change, has to go to students. So talk a little bit about that, how this really is really an attempt to make sure students don't get derailed, right, on their education plan. And then there's a portion of money that we can actually use here on campus for losses incurred because of COVID.
That's right. So this is actually our third round of COVID funding. The first round, we got 1.2 million for the institution, and 1.2 million was distributed to students. And then the second round, which was the supplemental act that was passed late December, that came in. It was another 1.2 million out to students and 4.2 million to the institution for losses and expenses due to COVID. This third round, this is the one that was just recently passed. That one, as you said, President, it's over $9.5 million. Half of that going to students. So about 4.7 million will go out to students that will be distributed, and 4.7 will come to the institution again for those costs of COVID and the lost revenues. So hopefully everybody's seen the emails that have been going out about things coming to the budget task force for those requests for reimbursement. But overall, that's about $10 million that has come to the institution to help defray our costs of COVID, and a little over $7 million for students to help make sure that they can continue their education.
So, so all in all, I think we're in pretty good shape. Of course, not everything that we need can be accommodated, but it could be so much worse for us, and we're very, very grateful. This kind of leads us into our tuition strategy this next year. So Carson, do you want to talk about we got the we've worked with our students in the tuition increase. There will be a tuition increase. I think our default position at Snow College will always be to not increase tuition if at all possible. But when it comes to our state and how they fund the compensation, so the 3%, for example, that the 3% increase for us at Snow College, the state only funds 75% of that, leaving the campus, leaving the college then to find the 25% match. And so when we talk about the tuition increase this year, it really is one of the only ways we can generate revenue to make sure that we can get the compensation to our staff and faculty. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what we're asking for from the state board and how we came to the numbers we did?
Sure, thanks, President. And that's exactly right. It's kind of a funny mechanism of funding there. You'd think after what I just said that we've got $10 million coming in from COVID funds and things, and we had such a great year to then say we have to do a tuition increase. But that is how higher education is funded here in Utah. So that compensation piece, that salary, benefits, and insurance there that you see at $817,000, there's a portion that is on top of that in order to pay for that 3% that we have to come up with. And so in addition to that, there was a request from the state auditor's office for us to look at fees, all the general student fees that are paid, and to see if there are any that can be transitioned over to tuition. As we worked with the Student Fee Advisory Board looking at it, online students don't pay fees, and so we looked to see if there were fees that made sense that impact all students, whether you're online or face-to-face. And so these are the student fees for Ephraim, and this next slide, these are the student fees for Richfield. What the Student Fee Advisory Board voted on and then was also approved by the Board of Trustees was that we would move approximately $21 of fees to tuition. And
Carson, I'm not sure that is visible just yet.
Oh,
at least it's not to me.
Let's see here. It may just be a delay. Let me try and start that again here. Is that better?
I think what's going to be coming up here really is, there we go. It'll give you a sense of our general fees as they are and what we're proposing to reduce them by.
So it shows as a reduction of 9.8%, almost 10% in fees. However, those fees are then rolled into tuition. So while we see this $21 reduction in fees, that'll be $21 that increase in tuition. So when we look at the overall tuition increase, what we're going to see is about a 2.5% increase. For tuition and fees, right now a resident student is paying $1,956 per semester. That will go up to $2,000, so a difference of $44 per semester. You can see what the non-resident and then the WUI are those students coming from neighboring states. They're charged 1.5 times of the resident rate. So overall about a 2.5% increase. You can see with the differential fees or the differential tuition, this is the bachelor's degrees, the upper division courses. This is for full-time with 12 credits we're looking at about $1 change in the resident and about $3 for the non-residents. But the big one here is the online, which we have not necessarily changed. And so that's always been the $17.43 because again, they didn't pay fees. But rolling that $21 into fees and then the 2.5% on top of that, that's why you see a little bit larger of an increase. It's a 3.7% increase. But the international students who have always been paying the in-state rate, that's going to go up to $2,000, and so that's a little bit higher. But President, as you mentioned, the goal here of Snow College has always been to be a low-cost, highest quality leader of education in the state, and that's what we're going for again.
So the 2.5% tuition increase will be right about in the middle of all the other USHE institutions and their tuition increase. Dixie State will probably be the highest at 3+% or more, and most of the institutions are right around 2.5, and most of again just so that they can make sure that they can meet those compensation requirements for us. So. Please, if there are any questions about that, we make a presentation on Thursday to the state board for that approval, and that tuition rate then will be in effect for next year. I want to pause here and actually address some questions that are coming through on the line here. One is, did Snow College make any requests for building funding in this legislative session, specifically for the new home and family studies building? The shorter answer is no, and here's why. The last session, right? Not this one, but the one before, we made a request, and we ended up being number 6 on that list. None of those buildings were funded. There were 6 higher education projects. None of them were funded because of the state economic situation with COVID. We were instructed that all of the 5, and there were only 5 buildings that were forwarded for approval, and we were just under that line. And the system essentially said, listen, for this legislative session, we're only going to go with the ones that we recommended last year. So the good news is that all 5 of those buildings are out of the way. They've been fully funded. That doesn't mean that our new home and family studies building is automatically guaranteed. It puts us in a really good position to do it. But this is going to be our number 1 ask for this next legislative session. In the meantime, we're continuing to sort of patch things up. The building really is at the end of its life, and it really is an important thing that we get that building replaced. And in fact, we are contemplating, not for sure yet, contemplating that maybe we even move the occupants out of that building, including the child care center, into West Campus, at least temporarily. But we're still trying to determine whether we can kind of band-aid that building together for another year or so. Okay. So there is a question about masks, and the short answer is that after April 10th, we're working with the state on getting some clarity on that as it relates to higher education. And so we will, as soon as we get some clarity on that, we will let you know as soon as possible. Another question is there a plan to offer vaccines to Snow students? When might this happen, and can students get both shots before going home for the summer? Rob, that may be a difficult one to answer, although do you want to tell us what the local county health authority has offered in terms of providing possible shots here in early April?
It looks like vaccines will be available for students anybody over 16 will be available in the next coming weeks. So I think by the end of this semester, everybody should have an opportunity, if they choose to, either at the health department or Walmart or local pharmacy, will be able to have a vaccine if they choose to before they go home for summer.
So that's good news. I've been very pleased that the timeline for the vaccines have really kind of met pace and maybe even exceeded pace. And so we hope that we can provide that service here on campus to make it convenient for students. There are some questions about commencement. Let me just say that we are planning on having a commencement, both Richfield and here in Ephraim, May 6th in Richfield and May 7th here in Ephraim. We'll make sure that we're following good safety protocols. We're actually we're gonna do something different here in Ephraim. On the 7th, we're gonna be out on the football field. So everybody sort of send good vibes for good weather. We do have backup plans if weather is not cooperative, but I'm really excited that our students will have that experience. It's a defining, memorable experience for our students. And to not have that last year, I think, was a real shame for that graduating class. But we're gonna try and have one this year. We've actually confirmed two speakers. The commencement speaker in Richfield will be Alan Hall, who is a current State Board of Higher Education member, but more notably, a terrific leader in entrepreneurship, and has really is a terrific speaker and is a really great role model for our students. And then I'm very excited to have Chris Cox, who is the former governor's budget director, but Chris is an incredibly talented, competent professional who is blind. And part of our sort of inclusion and diversity kind of effort, we want to be able to showcase and in a way highlight people like Chris who are just so good at what they do despite the challenges that they may have been dealt with in life. So we really look forward to that. Let's kind of go back a little bit and maybe start as you bring in more questions. There is a question that came in relative to our accelerated online learning, and the question really was about what kind of guidelines are in place to make sure that there's rigor and quality in those courses as the same as the courses taught on campus or through IVC. So maybe we can bring in Melanie Jenkins, the provost, to talk about that. This is something that she's working hard on, as well as other folks on campus.
Sure, I'm happy to talk about that. We're approaching this much the way that we approach consistency across other mediums on campus. The first thing we're doing is we're collecting signature assignments from these courses, and we will have those assessed against signature assignments from face-to-face and other online courses to ensure that the competencies are achieved equally in all mediums. And if they're not, then we'll need to make adjustments to the courses. The other thing that we're doing is we've actually hired our faculty to go in this semester sort of as back faculty members and look over the shoulders of those who are reading and evaluating the assignments that are turned in. And we're asking them to coach, help support the people in those roles to make sure that the grades reflect what they might be on this campus. So I think we're making some good strides there. President, can I mention something else?
Yes, please.
So if there aren't any more questions about AOL, this morning I was thinking about the end of the semester. We're almost there, right? We've accomplished something that very few institutions have accomplished. And we have had a lot of opportunity to brag about that at the legislature, at our Board of Trustees meeting, even in some national publications. And this morning I was listening to a story about Abby Wambach. I don't personally know that much about her. I'm not a soccer person, but she is a professional soccer player. She's a gold medalist, a World Cup champion. She personally scored more goals than any other player on the national team, and in the international arena, more goals than second to the most goals, any male or female in the international realm. So she's huge. And when you look at her scoring goals, after she scores a goal, she's always pointing to somebody on the field. And when asked why she does that, she said, no success that I have had, no goal that I have scored have I done by myself, right? I'm pointing to the people who assisted to help me, my teammates, those who helped me get there. And so I was just thinking this morning that this is a wonderful opportunity for us to point to the people who helped us get to the end of the rope here, our faculty and our staff. And so all of us are pointing our fingers at you and thanking you for helping us accomplish what no one thought we could. So thanks so much.
I think that's such an important message to kind of underscore. When you think about other states, there are a lot of states where the students haven't even come back to campus, and we've been able to maintain at least that option for students. It hasn't been ideal, and we've been sort of, in a way, putting, trying to figure this out as we go. But this just really is an incredible place, and we know that it's put a lot of pressure on the campus, and it hasn't been easy. So, but we want to recognize and acknowledge your hard work. Another question has come up in terms of when will the plan with masks be communicated? We hope as soon as possible. We're trying to get some clarity from the state legislature as well as our system, and as soon as we know, we will let you know. Let's actually bring in, if we can, Terry Clausen. Let's talk a little bit about enrollment, kind of where we are with enrollment at this point in spring, summer, and what we know at this point for fall, if we do.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I'm really pleased to say that our enrollment for summer is up almost 100 students, which is really exciting. We haven't seen this type of enrollment for summer in quite some time. So good job to everyone who has been pushing our summer semester. Thrilled with that. As for fall, I just want to put the caveat that this has been an unprecedented year. However, we're Badgers and we're tenacious and ferocious, and we're going to make sure that we accomplish our goals regardless. We are down in overall applications, which tends to be pretty much the case across the nation with most of our students that are in high school right now. And it comes down to the fact that so many students have not spent time in the high schools. We haven't been able to go into the high schools, and there's just been kind of this disconnect. So we're working really hard to overcome that. And it's especially important for us to focus on what we call yield. And so all of the things that we are doing for yield, we just hope that, staff and faculty support enrollment as we move forward with either events or connecting potential students with you for questions. We have some events that are coming up this spring that we're going to be having throughout the state with our regional recruiters to try and get students connected to us to really solidify their intent to come here to Snow College. And knock on wood, we will be up from where we were last year. And as you all know, we were one of the very few colleges and universities across the nation that saw a growth this past fall, despite the pandemic. So that is our goal again this year, to beat the odds. So we're just going to ask everyone to help by spreading that word.
Spreading the good word. Yeah. I know that your staff are working very hard on this. It's a very awkward time with COVID still to get access to high school students, but we're really sort of opening up again our aperture of Snow College to non-traditional students, adults, and of course with technical education, which is a kind of a segue, hopefully, to Stacy McKiff. Maybe we can bring you in and talk to us a little bit about our technical education agenda and the good news of 1.3 million of ongoing resources to help with this initiative. Welcome.
Thanks so much, President. Yeah, that amount was really exciting for us to see at the end of the legislative session. And as President said, most of that money is going towards the tuition offset for the lower cost to students on technical education. But we'll also be looking to hire some help to help with instructional design for the courses, and also some more student support help, which is our top priority. I wanted to just announce to everyone that Learn and Work 2.0 is coming. The legislature also passed some legislation to use CARES money for another round of Learn and Work. So those of you who have participated in the past, you'll have the opportunity again if you want to, and then we'll also be opening up some more opportunities. I just also wanted to let everyone know that we are converting some of the programs to TE tuition this fall, and I'll just read that list to you so that you can help spread the word to people you know about these reduced rates and in many cases reduced completion times. Everything is for college credit. There's no such thing as no credit anymore. And so everything that we offer will help a student if they want to continue on later. So automotive technology, CNA, composites, construction, cosmetology, diesel technology, EMT, industrial mechanics, machine tool technology, nail technician, networking, and cybersecurity, which is a new program, and welding technology will all be offered at this reduced tuition pricing. And so if you can just help us spread the word and promote these programs, and just a shout out to the faculty in these programs too. Some of these changes have not been very easy, and I want to just share lots of appreciation with them because they've really worked hard and continue to work hard. Thanks, President.
Thanks, Stacy. We appreciate all you're doing, especially the faculty, as they think about rethinking their own coursework in the technical education space to meet the needs of students, and we thank you for that. I'd like to have some really great news here. I want to introduce a new colleague, Dr. Diane Johnson, and I'd like to bring Diane on board here for an introduction. And let me just say that when it comes to finding ways that we can give a Snow College education to more people, technology is an important part of that strategy. And as you know, we're kind of working on two fronts relative to online learning. One is our regular online, Snow College Online, and then one is really kind of more of a COMPSI-based, self-paced online initiative. And we are at a point now where we really needed to get someone here on campus that was helped to be able to direct that effort. And Dr. Johnson brings a whole sort of range of experience. Starting from early on in her career, really was a K-12 teacher, so understood very clearly elements of education through special education. She's been a specialist in assessment and curriculum and instruction, and had different positions at Utah State University and Western Governors University. We most recently stole her from the University of Utah, which we're very proud. Anytime we can steal anything from the University of Utah, we run like we stole it, and we feel very good about that. Diane brings a lot of expertise here. And so welcome, Dr. Johnson. It's nice to have you here. You're talking to mostly staff and faculty and maybe some students, but tell us a little bit about yourself, but really about your hopes about where Snow College can contribute to the ongoing education project of our region and of our state in different and maybe new innovative ways.
Sure, thanks. I assume everybody can hear me okay? President, you did a great introduction that kind of captured where I came from. Where I'd like to go with all of you is I've always had a special place in my heart for non-traditional adult students, but also non-traditional K-12 students. I've had a special place in my heart for people in regions where there isn't as much access. And one of the things that I find most exciting about Snow and the kind of institution that you are is that I feel like there is more ability to be agile and respond to these needs at a school like Snow rather than, than in a larger institution. And I think where industry is going right now, with the technological tools that we have right now, an amazing faculty, and then the ability to partner with the legislature and with other entities, we could really do something amazing, leveraging great education with technology that makes it accessible to more people. in a way that I don't know that any other school in Utah and most schools in the nation and many across the world can't really do. And I don't want to be like, overly huge on that dream. And I'm saying that, though, having come from international and domestic experience and experience with all these different types of students. So I think, and Melanie actually shared with me that Snow College is like, we have flypaper here. People come and they stay, and it's really an amazing place. And I haven't been here long, but so far I think that's true. And I think that anything that we do using technology to provide the great education that we've had so far, the new education that we will introduce through online tools will only enhance and support the great graduation rate, the incredible graduation rate you guys have. We have the wonderful experience that students have here. I think that can all be replicated in the online space, and I'm very, very aware of all the things that go into that. And I'm excited to work with all of you to add and enhance to what Snow already has. So anyway, I'm thrilled to be here and totally excited to work on this project with all of you and contribute where I can. I really respect everything that you guys have done. And I actually, my 18-year-old is coming to school there, Terry, but we haven't done our application yet in the fall. So, so we're going to help with those numbers.
Get it done.
And I forgot to sort of mention your title as Associate Vice President for Online Programs and Strategic Initiatives and reporting through the Provost Office. So thank you, Diane, for being a part of the team, and it's really great to have you here. Let's turn the time over to our Athletic Director and our COVID czar, Rob Nielsen. Rob, you want to give us a sense of where we are? It seems like we're trending in the right direction.
Since we got back from spring break, we've had we've got one case. So it's been a great week. We expect a few more coming this week since we're getting back, but everything's trending to be really positive for the next month. We'll get through April, and I think it looks really good for the rest of the semester. So whatever people did over spring break, it sure helped. We went from 35 to 40 cases down to just a couple right now. So everything's going well on campus. Activities are still being held. We encourage students to mask up when they're at those activities, and that's been a challenge, but we haven't had many cases spread throughout those activities, which is nice. So COVID's doing well. We're still testing each week, each day in the Blue Gym. So come and get your tests, and Richfield's testing on Wednesdays as well. So everything's going well with COVID. We're very fortunate to be where we are, and everything's going as well as it is.
It's a busy semester athletically. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about athletics and some really great stories as it relates to national rankings with some of our programs?
Our volleyball team has started off, or they're finishing up the year now, and they are ranked 3rd in the nation and doing really well. They've won. They had another undefeated season here at home. They didn't lose at home. So they've had a very successful year and go into the tournament next week ranked #1 and have the #1 seed. Men's and women's basketball have both done well. Their women are still playing for first. Looks like men will be 3rd place as they go into the region tournament, which will both tournaments will be held in Richfield. The volleyball tournament, the 1st and 2nd, and the men's basketball and women's basketball tournament will be held April 8th, 9th, and 10th. So head down to Richfield, and we'll be having a lot of great basketball and volleyball in Richfield. Football starts this Saturday. They'll be traveling to Iowa Western, who will be ranked probably 1st or 2nd or 3rd. We'll probably be ranked 5th or 6th as we start this season. So football starts now, and we'll be playing their 8 games, 4 at home and 4 on the road, with 4 really difficult road games. Softball is doing well. They're continuing to play their league schedule. They're in, I think, 3rd place right now. And soccer will be starting in another week and a half. So for the next couple of weeks, everybody will be playing. There's a lot of activities, a lot of things going on. And then football and soccer will go through May to finish their season.
Thanks, Rob. Please pass on our thanks to everyone that kind of works so hard on behalf of our student athletes, and we're proud to have a program that is so successful, and thanks for your leadership. Finally, I'd like to bring in Josh Hales, our Director of HR, to talk to us a little bit about a survey that we've sent out called the Great Colleges to Workforce Survey. We really encourage you to complete that as it helps us as a baseline to how we can improve work conditions here and gives us some data to go from. But Josh, you want to talk about that survey and then anything else, any sort of updates on HR?
Yeah, you bet. So first off, on the survey, you may recognize from our strategic plan that one of our goals is to be listed on the list of great colleges to work for, and the survey is part of that recognition process. But I want to be clear, the goal is not necessarily the award. The award is just, I think, the byproduct of what our real goal is, which is to really make Snow College a great place to work. And so, and especially this first year, our goal really is to just make sure we get good information and good feedback from all of you, so we know where our gaps are, what we're doing well, what we need to improve on, and really start taking action based on those steps. So, so most of you should have received the survey in your inbox. It doesn't take very long to fill out. So please go and participate in that survey so we can get some good information and start making plans on making Snow College an even better place to work. A couple other things to point out. This one applies mostly to staff, but here in a couple weeks, we're going to be starting our performance evaluation process. So I know a lot of you have participated in our trainings to learn the software. We're going to get those up on our website so you can review them. But evaluations will open up here in a couple weeks. And then, yeah, lastly, President Cook, you mentioned the 3% salary increase that we received from the legislature, and this year we're going to be distributing that across the board. But it is important to remember that actually the state doesn't like us to do that. And so we're going to be communicating a plan for how we're going to be doing that in future years. So those are the major updates on the personnel side.
Good. We only have about 5 more minutes, really, and so if there are other questions, please write them down. Our next town hall will be on Tuesday, April 27th at 12:30, and so we look forward to that. And of course, I hope that most of you will be engaged with commencement in one way or another. This really is the best time to celebrate with our students during the commencement season. Thanks for all of the personal attention that you give students. This kind of personal kind of ministry, in a sense, makes a difference to their lives, and it's really what kind of sets Snow College apart. So if there are no other questions, then I think we can wind this particular town hall down, and we are open as always for feedback and ideas. Next time, we're probably going to be talking about some of the features of the strategic plan so that we are, again, collectively remembering those priorities that we set for ourselves, and probably more relative to technical education. We'll know more then. We do apologize that we don't have a final sort of position right now on masks. As of last week, we were very clear that we were going to continue the mask mandate. We are now getting messages from the state that we may not be able to legally do that. So we're working with our Commissioner's Office and with legislators on interpreting that. My hope is that we can continue the mask mandate, but we may not have that authority. At best, we might be able to just really encourage people best practices and be smart. But anyway, we'll get back to you more in the near future as to we get some clarity on that front. Thanks for all you do. It's a pleasure to work with you all, and we wish you the very best of the remainder of the semester, but we'll check in on you on April 27th. Thanks very much.